Greetings, Kerbinauts. Welcome to Kerbal Space Program Project Gateway. I'm Bob Fitch. So, what is Project Gateway? Well, since this is the first one of a series I'm going to do, I'm going to have to explain a little bit about that. So, Project Gateway, in order to really understand, I need to tell you a story. We need to go back a few years when Bob was tinkering with a new energy source technology, and suddenly there was an explosion, and little pockets of energy surges were detected all over Kerbin, on the moon, and the biggest one was on Minmus. So a mission was scheduled to go and investigate, and about a week later they had the mission together and they went off to Minmus, and Bob and Jebediah and Bill, they investigated the site and they found a strange device on the ground, and that device was taken back to Kerbin for further investigation. So now we need to fast forward 6 years. Bob spent that long trying to figure out what it was, and finally he realized it was some sort of strange digital manual made by an alien race, and he thinks it may have even come from another universe. It was blueprints for some sort of station, and the station had only letters. It was called ISS. Now they have no idea what that means, but this is something that was foretold millennia ago, or at least so the stories go, that someday something like this would happen. And when it did, all of Kerbin would band together to build whatever that device was, and it would open a gateway into another dimension. A dimension that some say, if you go there, it will tear the universe apart. You know, the usual doomsayers nonsense, mostly fueled by some strange object that's at the core of this station that they need to build, something about an Omega 13, but they have no idea what that is or what it does. They're not even sure they want to activate it. Anyway, so we're 6 years later, they finally have an idea of what they need to do, and the government comes forward to Bob, Jeb, and Bill, who of course are the three main candidates to go into building this station, and they ask them to do it for them. They have 3 requirements. Bill, being a neat freak, says he will only do it if there's no orbital debris left behind. Jebediah, he's an adventure seeker, and so he says he'll only do it if he can go through the portal first. And Bob is a construction nut, and he'll only do it if he can do all of the EVAs for the construction of the space station. Well, the government and the Kerbin Space Administration both agreed, and so here we are today. We're getting ready to begin this great adventure that will lead to who knows what in some dimension far beyond. What great mysteries may lay ahead, we will see. Okay, so that's the premise of this little story that I'm going to tell, and I'm going to be telling it, of course, inside the Kerbal Space Program by building a replica of the ISS, but I'm going to do it in a non-traditional way. It's going to be bigger and better than anything that's ever been seen before, because I'm going to do it with all kinds of mods, and I'm going to show off those mods as I go along. I'm going to show what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and ways that you can maybe use some of those mods yourself to just do some really cool stuff. So let's get into exactly what mods I am going to use. So I want to go with realism in this thing. I am going out to the wiki and I'm investigating and researching different images and things like that to try and figure out how big I want to make things and what I want them to look like and all that good stuff. I've decided that I'm going to go for a 60% scale. I've noticed that a lot of the real ISS stuff seems to be around 4 meters, and if I go with a 60% scale, then I can use a lot of the 2.5 meter parts to replicate the sorts of things that we can see in the actual ISS. I also want to go with realism. I want RemoteTech, and that's actually what you're seeing right here. This entire time, while I've been talking, just to have something to look at, I've been showing this satellite that is the first of my geosynchronous satellites. There's going to be 2 of them, but we'll get into a little of that later. Right now I want to talk about the mods, like I'm going to be using Ferrum Aerospace, Deadly Reentry, Interstellar mods so that I can get to the more realistic waste heat. I'm going to use life support for the station itself. Also, I want to build it all myself. I don't want to use any parts packs that are like already looking exactly like the real pieces. I want to put this stuff together. To me, this is like Legos. This is my Lincoln Logs. This is taking me back to when I was a kid and I got to build things. And this is what makes it fun. So I don't want one of these packs that does it all for me. Now that said, that's going to be a lot of parts, and this is going to be pretty big. It's going to be the biggest thing I've ever built. It might be the biggest thing I've ever seen. You may have seen in the beginning intro there, that was my prototype. That's actually smaller than the one I'm going to make now. I haven't actually started the one I'm going to make for this series. That prototype, I got partway done with it, and I decided I could use it for my intro, even though that's not really going to be the thing that we're doing. And the reason is, I feel like I learned so much just in the construction of the first half of that. Even though I've been playing this for a long time and I know a lot about how to make this stuff, I still learned so much in that beginning, like how to build better replicas, for one thing, and I just wanted to go back and do it again. I learned that really where the interesting parts were, it wasn't all the launches and anything like that. It was the actual fiddly construction. It was going out on EVAs and starting to make stuff like that, and I wasn't doing the EVAs at the beginning, and I was closer to the end of the construction, and I realized just how much more fun that was, and I want to do it again, and I want to do more EVAs. Also, the part count was getting really high, and it was chugging my computer. I think you can imagine. I'm sure you've experienced something like that before. And I decided I need to do welding. And there's that mod that can weld parts together, so I'm going to do a bunch of welding. Even though that doesn't work in 023, which is what this is, I'm going to take the parts into 022 and I'm going to weld them there and then carry them over into here, and I'm going to modify them as appropriate and tweak the files and everything like that. Okay, before I continue, let's take a look at the opening of this satellite. I love satellites. I love building them with articulating parts like this right here, where the solar panels open up and the arms deploy and the dishes come out like that. This is actually similar to a real satellite called a TDRS, a tracking and data relay. And so I'm going to put up two of these, and one of them is going to point at the ground, and one of them is going to point at the ISS, or my ISS replica. And no, that's not true. One of them is going to point at the other TDRS, and then the other one at the ISS, and then it has the antenna to communicate with the ground. This one's actually geosynchronous, directly above mission control right now. The second satellite will also be geosynchronous. It'll be much further along on its orbit than this one, though. It'll be almost on the other side, but still within range of visibility with this satellite right here. Now you can see here I kind of lied. I said it was directly above. It's a little offset because that's what happens when you launch. But if you notice my orbital period down in the orbit info window, I have the orbital period at 6 hours and 12 minutes. Now the planet spins at 6 hours. So because I'm going slower, it's actually going to catch up on me. So what I'm going to do right here is fast forward a bit, and as I fast forward, the planet's going to catch up on me, and then when I am directly overhead, then I'm going to slow down. Here we go. And then I'm going to drop that orbital period back down to exactly 6 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. That's how you get a geosynchronous satellite, is at a 6 hour orbital period. That's around 2868 kilometers, but you don't really have to fine-tune it to be perfectly circular. It'll be good enough just to get close. What you really want is that orbital period. Okay, so I want to get back to a couple of the rules I didn't finish going over yet. So one of them is this is not a recreation of historical events. This is not a following of the ISS plans 100% perfectly. It has nothing to do with that. As you heard in the beginning, there's a backstory to all of this. That is, they found this manual, this digital manual, and they're following it, believing that there's a gateway that's going to open up if they build the station. So this means I'm not going to be doing space shuttle launches for all of the parts where space shuttle launches existed and stuff. I'm actually going to use rockets for all of this because they have only rocket systems on Kerbin right now. In fact, the Kerbin Space Administration has decreed that only the stock lifters that they have already built can be used. Now, it's okay if we construct brand new parts in order to build this station, of course, but we must use only the existing lifters that they have built and make use of those and amortize those costs over all of the launches. Speaking of which, here goes the second geosynchronous satellite right now. Right there, that is the Kerbin Launch Systems version 2. It is the 1.5 meter rocket with an expanded fairing to carry light loads up into as high as geosynchronous orbit, of course. Now, getting back to the rules and restrictions I'm placing on myself, because frankly, come on, you know, that's what really makes it interesting. That's what makes it fun. That's why we use these things like deadly reentry and RemoteTech and interstellar and life support. It's because it's more fun that way. Anyway, the last two restrictions that I've come up with so far for myself, I reserve the right to add additional restrictions if it will make it more fun for myself. They are that I'm not necessarily going to force myself to use any Soyuz ships or anything like that, because Jebediah has decided that the important thing is the space station. It's not the ships that were used to bring everything up to the station. It's what the station is and that Omega-13 that's at its core. That's what's important. So we're not going to replicate the shuttles and the Soyuz and all that necessarily. We might a little, I don't know, we'll see. And the other thing is, though, because it's part of the station, he has also decided that we must sort of replicate the fact that two different parts of the station have sort of a different feel about how they're built. One part of it, they have identified this word called Russian. They don't know what Russian means, but they think it's a type of people on the other side in this other dimension. So they have a section of the station that we're going to, when we build it, we're going to use entirely different parts than the parts we use to build the rest of the station. Rest of the station? What rest of the station? We're 10 minutes into this thing and I haven't seen anything other than 1.5 launches of some satellites. Let's go look at something cool. Okay, fine. Let's go into the vehicle assembly building here, and we'll take a little look around and see how things are going and how they're getting started. You can see right here I've got my Z1 truss, so that's KSS launch number 4. I'm a little bit ahead in terms of what it is that I'm actually building and launching. This one hasn't gone up yet, I was just building it. I have launched the other first 3 parts already, and we will get to those in this and future videos. But first, everybody always asks me, what mods are you using? And so here we go. Here is the mod list. Oh, let me move this window out of the way. Okay, so this is the mod list. For starters, the mod you're looking at is Simple Part Organizer, and long story short, I'm now the writer of it. It was being written by somebody else. He didn't update it for 0.23. I told him I would, and so now I'm the author. Anyway, this is actually a version I haven't released yet with a wider window and easier to see scroll bar here. One of the things I want to do is alphabetize it though, and so that's why I haven't released it yet, because I'm not really done with it. So you can see the mods I have here. I am going to just leave this for a second or two. You can pause your video and look at the list if you want. I'm not going to go through them one by one. And let's see, mods by tals at the bottom. Now I will scroll up a little. Okay, there we go. There's the last ones. So those are all the mods that actually have parts. Mods that don't have parts aren't shown here, and so I'll have to cover those in maybe a different video, because this one's already going to be kind of long with stuff that's less interesting anyway. But Simple Part Organizer is cool. When I release it, you should grab it. It allows you to do things like sort, filter by the different types. Especially this is really cool, where you can go in here and filter, like just show only the Cosmos mods. By the way, that's the stuff that I'm using for the Russian segments. And I'm going to use other stuff like Squad and KW Rocketry or whatever, all those other stuff. That's going to be for the non-Russian sections. Alright, let's turn that filter back off so that I can see all my parts now. And I was saying that I was going to use only stock lifters, and what I mean by that is I have pre-made a few of them. Well, I'm not pre-making them. I'm making them as I need them, but once I make one, I'm only using that one type for future things. There's going to be 6 different ones. There'll be 2 of them for the 1.5 meter, 2 for the 2.5. Oh, that's actually 3.75. I misspelled it. Anyway, I'll fix that later. I haven't needed the non-expanded ones yet. When I do, I will make them, and so I will have up to 6 of them. And then the PMA, that stands for Pressurized Mating Adapter, and we'll be using some of those on the station because Jebediah insists that even though we could make all this stuff without needing the different parts to interact in that way, and I'll explain what that is when it comes time to actually use them, he says it's important that we maintain that aspect of our mimicking of this other dimensional space station. So that's some of the launchers there. I'll just pull them up real quick. You can see the little one that I was using for, oop, cancel that. We'll delete that. Okay, and we got, this is what the 2.5 one looks like. And I was just making this one here, so you can see that's one of these. So yeah, I might make some more of those. But I'm not going to let you look inside here. That's in a future episode. Let's go look at the first launch, because really that's what it's all about, right? We are here to see those other launches. Okay, so you can see on this one I used my 2.5, so that KLS-4 version 4 of the lifter. And I think the coolest thing that I can probably do in order to show you what's going on in here is to just work my way through it and show the different parts and where they are and what they do and how I've built it. So you can get the launch clamps off of there. So these right here, these are a mod called Surface Lights, and they have light that comes out in the 4 different directions for this type. And this type, the light shines straight up. It's really cool. I love those lights, and I'm not using anything else. I used to use the B9 lights, but now I'm not using anything else other than those. So we have these nose cones that fire retro rockets. Those little holes right there, those are actually retro rocket holes. They come from KW Rocketry. We'll take one of those off. And you can see I've got some boosters on here that throw this rocket back off. So separators, some KW Rocketry things, more separators, working our way up. Now this one, this is cool. This guy, he made a mod where there's little compartments. And inside those compartments, you can store all of your cool stuff that you have, you know, batteries and your RemoteTech antenna, your CPU core, because remember, Bill doesn't want any debris. Everything has to be deorbited, and this is going up into an orbit, so it needs to come back down out of that orbit. So I need to be able to control it, and so we have the antenna and the CPU in there in order to do that. Got some monopropellant, a gyroscope, got a bigger antenna in there, some big batteries from KW Rocketry, little RCS things. These are the Lionhead circular solar panels. And let's see, we'll get rid of that. We have a KW Rocketry fairing on here. Pull that off. And that is my Zarya replica. And I said that I was going to do some welding. Well, take a look at this. So if we go into my structure, down here I have Zarya body. And that is one piece. I built that by putting different pieces together. So I came in here and I took this this module, what is this? Module blah 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 blah. AIES P1. I took one of those and I flipped it upside down and I stuck it on top of some Cosmos parts and different things like that, and I put that all together. And so this is what it looks like. Here, I'll stick it right here so it shows up. No, it's not showing up. There we go. All right, so that's what it looks like with nothing on it. And then I've attached some things, you know, like engines and lights and solar panels and docking ports and all that. But this is really going to cut down my part count quite a bit. You can see that right there. That's pretty cool. That's a really cool mod. I hope that guy keeps updating that and keeping it available and working for the new version. It isn't available for the new version yet, so I have to go back, like I said, to 0.22. All right, so there's the Zarya module, you know, just regular solar panels, RCS, engines, docking rings. Now these are the Cosmos docking rings, Cosmos pack parts, and that's why I am going to need a PMA. So here's a PMA that I have built. Oh, that is not what it's supposed to look like. I actually took that part off. I'm gonna have to take that off and save that again. So get rid of that. Yeah, so it has a normal docking ring on one side and the other there. And that's all that thing does. It's just a docking adapter where it has one type of docking ring that goes to another type of docking ring. And we'll be using that on some of our launches. So while I'm here, let me save that as a replacement of this subassembly. I didn't want that little bit on there. All right. So there it is, and I'm going to put this one in orbit real quick, and that will bring this particular installment of the video nearly to a close. But first, the Zarya launch, KSS number 1, it's an unmanned launch, and that means I'm going to have my RemoteTech network ready to go. I'm not doing it with 3 satellites because I believe I can do it with 2, and I have the 1 GEO already up there. We're putting up another TETRS into a second position that's most of the way around Kerbin, but it'll still be visible to the first GeoSat. Speaking of which, I have set that first GeoSat as my target so that I can try to match my orbit with it. That way they'll stay more in sync with each other a little bit better. And you can see what I'm doing right here is I've moved so that my apoapsis and my ascending or descending node, whichever one that is right there, match up. And then as I'm pushing my apo higher, I'm adjusting a little bit left or right on my approach to keep that, see that node, that ascending descending node right there, I'm keeping it on the apoapsis as I continue to push that out. That way when the apo hits the other orbit of that satellite, that ascending node is going to be at the same location, and I know I've intercepted the other orbit perfectly. So that's a little trick you can use when you're trying to match satellites. And there we are, we have met the opposing orbit. Now it's time to circularize, but first there's another trick. Look here, I'm opening up my maneuver planner that's in MechJeb. Now you could do this by hand by fiddling with the node. It's just quicker if you use this maneuver planner, so I don't have to spend all my time fiddling with the node. And what I've done is I've set a periapsis of 15 kilometers and then the 2868 that is geosynchronous, because what I'm trying to do is make sure that this lower stage deorbits after I have boosted myself up to the proper altitude. But at the same time, I want to use as much fuel as I can out of that stage before I ditch it, just in case there's extra fuel left over. You know, Bill doesn't care whether there's fuel left over or not. He wants all that debris out of the skies. Nothing. No Kessler syndrome for him. Okay, so we use as much fuel as we can, we boost ourselves up to the proper altitude, we leave our periapsis still in the atmosphere to deorbit, and then we decouple and we put the satellite up on the rest of the way on its own power, which is just like 400 delta V or something like that. It's really cheap once you can boost yourself up that high. You're going so slow, it doesn't take much. And then we deploy the satellite, watching the beautiful solar panels opening up again, and watching those beautiful antenna opening. We point the 2 satellites at each other, and we let the other one stand ready to go to the KSS when it begins coming up for its construction. That'll keep us well within communications all the time for our unmanned launches. Okay, so then the next thing we need to do is make sure that the satellites are actually lined up correctly. So that's another trick that I could share with you. So what you do is you get your orbit to be just about the same as the other, but whether you're in front or behind, you're going to need to speed up or slow down a little bit. So you make it off by just a couple minutes, and then you fast forward, and when you do that, like right here, I'm a couple minutes faster than the other satellite, and so every time around I'm getting a little bit further in front of it. And when I see that the line going for RemoteTech is about right here, I have it as 1 extra Kerbin width, which is 600 kilometers away. And so what that means is that the other satellite is going to be about 6.5 million meters away, which puts it outside the range of an antenna, which is why I have the dish on there. And that other one then will be able to look behind, so to speak, behind Kerbin and see most of any of my launch windows. But it is time to watch the real launch. This is what we came here for. Okay, come on, let's go. Oh no! Nighttime. All right, I'm going to fast forward a little bit and let's get into the daylight. Sunrise, perfect. Okay, so if I got everything all set up, let's see, turn on the SAS. We'll put on the lights are already on. Got the lights, throttle up, get our little map things here, switch out here. Everything's good. Okay, open that up. Okay, staging. I didn't do anything stupid. Good, good, good. Okay, this is the first one. All right. Oh, here we go. And yeah, here we go. Oh. Wait. I shouldn't be hearing people talking. I think I need to revert that. So the problem there is this defaults to putting Kerbals inside, and I don't want any Kerbals in this. I want this an automated launch for the very first one. So I'm going to use my crew engineer here, my thing, whatever this thing is called. Crew manifest. I'm using my crew manifest here, and I'm going to take the Kerbals out. So nobody goes up in this first one. It's empty. Okay, 0 of 3. It's empty. Nobody goes up. It's automated for the first flight. Let's get back to the daylight. Okay. Now we're in business. Here we go. Ding. Throttle up. And go. Oh, yeah. Yeah, here we go. So excited. The first module. It's going to be a lot of flights. It's going to be, geez, my prototype, I went up to 13, 14 flights. So I know this one is going to be a while. So let's fast forward here and get ourselves into orbit. And then, oh, gotta go 45. Crap, I'm going into an inclined orbit. I'm gonna do a 55, 56, 55, 56, 50, oh, jeez, 51. Now I gotta look it up. Completely forgot. I'm just so excited about this thing. Alright, I'll just get it close. Yeah, come on. Pitch over. Oh, come on, pitch over. I gotta open up my views again. Okay, booster's almost out. And ditch. Whoosh. There they go. Okay. Now, let's make sure that we are on a nice incline here. Okay. I think it's like 55 or 56 or 51.5, something like that. Oh, hello, Minmus. I see you out there in the dark, just to the left of my rocket, little white dot. Maybe it's a speck of dust on my screen. I don't know. But I think that could be Minmus. I don't think we'll be visiting you in this game. Sorry, Minmus. Alright, so now I'm going to fast forward a bit to the good parts. Oh, look at that thing. That is pretty, if I say so. Okay. Gotta make sure that I have one of the antenna out. That's, look at that. Crew manifest turns them to different colors. It changes the highlight color. Now it's flashing yellow. Can't really make that stop. I guess I could save and reload. That'll make it stop. First, I'm going to get that antenna out, though. Let's grab one of those and activate that. Alright, excellent. Okay, did that do it? Yeah, okay, we're back in business. No more screwy yellow from the crew manifest thing. I don't know why it does that, but at least the save fixes it. Alright, so now... Oh, geez, we're getting close to apoapsis. Prograde. Okay, prograde, stay prograde, and... throttle up. Alright, I'm targeting 170 kilometers. That puts me 50 kilometers above the minimum warp speed for 100 times. 100 times I think is 120 kilometers. So adding 50 to that to give me a little maneuver room when I'm coming up with other ships, I decided to go with 170. All right, we are at least in orbit. We are not suborbital. We got our periapsis there, 78 kilometers, but I want to circularize this out. And I had tabbed over to double check the inclination that I need, so I wasn't looking, and we got up to the the node, and I went through it, and so now we have this weird elliptical thing here. So I'm going to try to fix that. And I'm also going to change the inclination a little bit more. My inclination right now is 48, almost 50 degrees, or 49 degrees. I'm going to change that to 51.6. Done. Goodbye, stage. Thank you for getting me this far. I will switch over to you and I will deorbit you soon. Don't you worry about that. I will send you to your burning death. But first, I must open up my solar panels and look at this gorgeous bird flying through the skies of Kerbin. And you are the first of many, little bird. I'll orient you, and then I will take care of you and love you and cherish you forever. And now I will close out this installment with just a little bit of gratuitous flyby, getting a good look at it before this is all done. And I will see you next time. We will put up the second, or maybe the second and third nodes. See you later, Kerbinauts.